Hey everyone, it's Trey here with a quick disclaimer. We talked about the World Series teams in this video and made some predictions about the series that are no longer relevant because the series ended in 5 games. Thanks a lot, snakes. But there was some good talk about both the D-backs and Rangers and their seasons leading up to the World Series, so we decided to post this video anyways. Thank you for your understanding and enjoy the video.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of District Baseball as we are halfway through, effectively, the World Series, and the season is officially winding down. We have a lot to cover in today's episode, both recapping what's going on in the World Series and around baseball. But first, Trey, what's going on?
Nothing much, Nick. I'm just enjoying the World Series. Been some competitive games so far, with two teams that we did not expect to be in this position. At least I did not. Especially the Diamondbacks side of things. But yeah, we just wanted to do a little video talking about both of these two teams specifically, the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. Also, if you see me look over to my left, it's because the Game 4 is on right now. It just started, so we're hoping for some live reactions maybe to some stuff. But regardless, we just wanted to talk about both teams, and we figured it would be easier to start at the regular season for both teams, because both these teams had their ups and downs heading throughout the season. Specifically, they both had pretty poor months at different times, and they also had quick starts to the season. Rangers got out to a really big lead in the AL West, while the Diamondbacks were hanging around with the Dodgers for the division lead for basically all of May until going into June. But then both teams had their issues. But also, they also had plenty of great performances and a lot of young talent. Nick, let me ask you about both of these teams and what you might have thought about them heading into the season and how those opinions have adjusted based on how they've done in the postseason.
So I was bullish, if I dare use that word, on the Rangers. I did have them making the playoffs, although I guess they didn't win their division, so that part of my prediction was correct. I had them as a wild card team. I had them as the last team in the AL. They were slightly better than that. They were slightly better throughout the year than I anticipated they would be, but part of that was due to the Astros kind of stuttering a little bit early on before they, reacquired Verlander and stuff like that and really hit their stride later on. But I've always been high on the Rangers. The thing I think I was underestimating, though, was the presence of Bruce Bochy, the guy who's been there, done that, the steady hand that so many teams around baseball don't have. This is not a shot at Dusty Baker at all. I personally didn't like Dusty's fit here with the Nationals. I thought he was a much better fit for a team like the Astros that were much more established. But you look at Dusty Baker, he's 0-4 career in Game 7, whereas Bruce Bochy is now 6-0 or something like that. So regardless of what,
he hasn't
what
lost,
it is.
I know that.
Yeah, it's undefeated, right? And that's what it came down to. And those are the types of situations you need to prevail from in the postseason. And because the Rangers had the steady hand in Bruce Bochy, they were able to knock off the team that knocked them off for the division title just a few weeks prior. So it's just a testament to how much parity is in baseball, that not only can the quote-unquote inferior team in the AL West win, you look at the NL, and the inferior team in terms of playoff seeding came out on top.
Yeah.
You can go to the Phillies and Braves, and I'm sure there are some people prior to the true NLCS saying that was the real NLCS, and I might have been right there with you, because I've been saying it for weeks now. I didn't think the Dodgers were the same caliber Dodgers team. I was right in that regard, but I was very wrong to discount what the Diamondbacks could do. So again, this is all just to say it's a matter of getting hot at the right time, and the Diamondbacks brand of baseball is stealing bases and defense, and then they can just do enough on offense to help supplement or help support their style of baseball, and then they have the pitching, both starters and relievers, to cover any other flaws. So they're just a team without many weaknesses. They won't blow you away, but they don't have many weaknesses, and that can't be discounted at this time of year.
Yeah, and I think as well, something to point out with the Diamondbacks is that their bullpen has not only been good in the postseason, but kind of ridiculous because they've had to rely on so many different guys and pick up so many innings because they haven't really let their starters go that long, especially Fott until last night where he actually ended up going 6 innings. But I was not anticipating that going into the playoffs because I thought their bullpen was probably their weak point. But Sewald has really pitched well in the postseason. You have guys like Mantiply, who's actually opening tonight. He's already opened in the series, pitching in a bunch of different roles and still excelling. And then, of course, there's Kevin Ginkel, who has been absolutely dominant out there. Pretty much, probably the best reliever of the postseason, in my opinion, has been Kevin Ginkel. And they've really needed him in a lot of different clutch spots. And I like what you said about Bochy being the steady hand. I think it's a good point because they could have folded after losing the division on the last day of the year. I mean, some teams do that. Some teams fail at the end and don't even show up in the playoffs. I didn't think they would show up in the playoffs. We don't even need to get into my predictions because they were terrible. But yeah, so I think him keeping them focused on the ultimate goal of the World Series was really important. And we saw how they I'm pretty sure they haven't lost on the road one time in the playoffs so far, which is pretty ridiculous and definitely a testament to good managerial practices.
The Rangers haven't?
I believe they are 9-0, if I'm not mistaken. I think after last night's win.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Also, Ketel Marte just got thrown out stealing by Jonah Heim. Anyways, yeah, crazy road victories. So, yeah, still waiting on that first road loss. But they've been pretty insane in general, but especially on the road.
No, they lost game 1. Oh, no, the Rangers. I'm mixed up. Yep, you're correct. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy to think about. And another thing that's kind of crazy to think about is that the D-backs bought at the deadline this season, because their rough patch kind of came around July. That was their worst month. And it happened to coincide with Corbin Carroll only having an 800 OPS that month. So that was his worst. That was actually his worst month,
Scrub.
Which is kind of insane. But that was also their worst month, and Ketel Marte also struggled during that time, especially in August. So it was looking like maybe they shouldn't have bought because, like you said, it seemed like they were a year too early, which I agreed with. I didn't think they would make the playoffs. One, and then secondly, I thought it's good they made it, but re-up for next year. Shows how much I know, I guess. But yeah, so it's just interesting that they bought at the deadline, and it's working so well with the two main pieces they got in Paul Sewald and now Tommy Pham in the World Series, who had a 6-for-7 stretch between games 1 and 3 at one point, and has been a huge veteran piece in that clubhouse, and also statistically in these playoffs. Later in the playoffs, he struggled in the beginning. However, he's coming around when they really need him the most. And then obviously we kind of knew the Rangers were going to buy at the deadline because of how great they started, and they obviously have sunk a lot of payroll into this team, so they're going for it. And again, they could have said, yeah, we signed DeGrom and he got hurt. Like, what are we going to do? We tried. Mm-hmm. But no, they said, you know what, we're in this. We got a good squad. Let's go out. Let's go get Max Scherzer. Let's go get Jordan Montgomery. Let's go get Aroldis Chapman, which it's kind of not really worked out as great as they wanted to because he's kind of chaos every time he comes in. And they gave up Cole Ragans to get him, who looks like a stud. But I respect the idea there. They knew they needed bullpen help, so they went out and got some, and here they are in the World Series up 2-1. So I think there's definitely, you obviously want to be cautious with buying at the deadline sometimes, but especially in the Rangers case, it was important that they bought at this deadline, considering that they put so much into this team. Speaking of bullpen guys, Josh Sborz for the Rangers has been excellent these playoffs. This was a dude with a 5.5 ERA in the regular season. I mean, This is not when you're. I don't know how we're supposed to predict that coming into this, but he's got good stuff, so they were just hopeful that it could translate, and it has. So you're getting performances out of guys that maybe struggled at certain points during the regular season, but are playing to their true potential now, and that's why both these teams are in the position they're in.
Yeah, but that's what winning the World Series is all about. Like, not to make everything about the Nats, but if you look at the Nats run, Patrick Corbin had his ups and downs throughout the 2019 season, but was generally pretty good. And then in the playoffs, he was damn near unpitchable because he was just he would cost you games, and obviously in the playoffs, like, you don't really have many games you can afford to lose.
Man, that Game 7 performance really saved his ass.
Right. And like the Game 7 performance really covers how bad he was during the 2019 playoffs. And listen, that's all that matters.
Yep.
Like,
that's kind of the flip of what we're
an instrumental part in winning the World Series, and I'm not taking that away from him. But it just goes to show like how the most unexpected pieces need to rise to the occasion in order to get where you want to go. Like, Anibal Sanchez became an ace in the 2019 postseason, which helped mitigate the necessity for Patrick Corbin. Like, Patrick Corbin literally became a bullpen guy because of Anibal Sanchez and how good he was, and also just because Corbin wasn't doing all that great. But again, then you look at Howie Kendrick, who like was a rotational piece. Like, he was a regular, but he wasn't, a like star piece. He wasn't the Soto or Rendon or anything like that. And we're not even to the championship series without him.
Yeah.
So, and the list goes on and on and on. Not to mention, like, granted, it wasn't that year, but the deadline acquisitions for Doolittle and Hudson, and like to take it back to this year, it doesn't have to be the splashiest move, right? Like, the Max Scherzer trade for the Rangers, it was the splashy move, but it's the Jordan Montgomery trade that's paying off more than anything else.
Yeah, and Tommy Pham was like an afterthought at the deadline.
Right,
Teams weren't even really pursuing him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the Tommy Pham deal. Like, there's plenty of preconceived notions on Tommy Pham with punching teammates in the face and things like that, but you look at the World Series. What was it, Game 2, where he goes 4 for 4.
4 for 4, yep.
And they're up like 9-1, and he could be like the first player ever to go 5 for 5 in a World Series game, or whatever the stat was. And rather than taking the 5th at bat, he goes to his manager and says, "Hey, I want to give Jace an at bat here." And that just kind of shows you the camaraderie that the Diamondbacks have, and a little peek behind the curtain, and how close that team is, and kind of how a team needs to come together to win. And like, I saw with the Nats, like, the Nats were like a 90-91 win team, and granted, it's not as, what are the Diamondbacks at, 84?
Yeah, I believe they went 84
right?
and 78 in the regular season.
Right, so it's better than the Diamondbacks by a decent amount, but like, you think about who the Nats went through, like, the Nats were not the favorites, and the Diamondbacks certainly aren't the favorites, but they're here now, and if they win tonight, it's a best-of-3 series.
Yep.
And we've seen them have no issues taking a best-of-3 series. So now that they're here and they're playing together, as we've seen, there's no reason they can't win this thing.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks have proven that they belong in the conversation. They've beaten some really great teams to get to this point. They probably had the hardest road of any team, in which makes sense. They were the 6th seed, but they go through the Brewers, sweep them against Corbin Burns and Freddie Peralta, when I believe that they were throwing a bullpen game in Game 2. And they kind of just took care of business there. Go to the Dodgers, completely annihilate them. It wasn't even close. Then play in a really tight series against the Phillies, who, I mean, we thought were the team of destiny based on how that they were playing and how they beat the Braves. And they must have overlooked the Snake squad because the Diamondbacks came to play. So they have proven that they can beat any elite team you throw at them. Right now they're down 2-1. So it's a matter, we just have to see how it ends up going. But they could win, and if they don't win, they should still feel like they're in a great position moving forward, heading into next season. Because they're a really mature group of players despite their young age, relatively speaking. I mean, they have a lot of rookies that are playing like veterans in this league. I mean, obviously Corbin Carroll's amazing. He's only 23. But then you throw in Brandon Pfaadt, who... Again, another guy who was not supposed to be doing this, in the playoffs, has stepped up big time, thrown great innings for them. And then also Gabby Moreno has been amazing, both behind the dish and at the plate. So a lot of young talent, but seemingly very mature and are prepared for this moment. So it's really cool. And that doesn't even, there's rookies on the other side with the Rangers, Josh Young and Evan Carter, who have stepped up huge. Josh Young on defense, dude. I'm like, I didn't know he was this good defensively, but he is making so many clutch plays for them. Last night, one deflects off Scherzer's elbow or something. He bare hand throws out, I don't even remember who, but it's somebody fast. But it was just like ridiculous. I couldn't even wrap my head around it. And then Evan Carter, 1. OPS in the playoffs as a 21-year-old. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. That's Juan Soto territory. And that all that doesn't even mention with the Rangers, Adolis Garcia, who we should definitely talk about because, first of all, unfortunately, he's out for the rest of the postseason with an oblique injury. But my goodness, him getting them this far, it was basically him and Seager in the CS. It was basically just carried them through that. And Garcia, his stats are hilarious because he had
season RBI or single postseason RBI record holder right there.
Yes, that
and
is
he didn't
true.
even get to play the full postseason.
Correct. Yeah, so he has that record won, but also he went like 15 postseason games with a OPS over 1,000 without walking. He just walked for the first time in the World Series, the whole playoffs, which is just insane. He was just up there just ripping homers and doubles and extra base hits and whatever. And it was just with the bat, no walking. They weren't, which is hilarious because wouldn't teams put him on at some point when he's hitting that?
The funniest part of it was game 5 or 6 of the ALCS. And the Astros have him 0 for 4 strikeouts. They're taunting him and all this stuff. And what does he do at bat number 5? Bomb.
Yeah, and I believe that was another thing.
Wasn't that the Grand Slam?
That was the Grand Slam, and I believe that the stat was that has never happened before either. 4 strikeouts, and in the 5th at-bat, homer.
It doesn't matter to this dude. He has ice in his veins, and for the Rangers to lose that is a big deal.
Yeah.
But, like I mentioned earlier, you need unsuspecting guys to step up, and now there will be more opportunity for the Rangers to have guys step up.
Now it's
but
Jank the tank, baby.
The difference maker in the postseason is having that star. And each team does. I think Corbin Carroll is undeniably a star.
Oh, yeah.
But seeing what Corey Seager can do in the playoffs again, and people are so quick to discount the 2020 season that they forget how good Corey Seager was. And now here he is again. And honestly, the Rangers are here. Yeah, a lot to do with Garcia, but probably even more to do with Seager. The way they came back in Game 1, and obviously Seager's homer to cap it off, insane. And then not to mention what he did last night in Game 3. This dude is well on his way to winning another World Series MVP if the Rangers can hold off the Diamondbacks. And victory lap again. I called it. Corey Seager is one of the best players in baseball.
Yep. You definitely you had that at the beginning of the season, and absolutely take the victory lap because, he put up a 7-WAR season in 100 games, and then he comes in the playoffs, and he's him. He's built for it. Mm-hmm. He's that guy. Any way you want to say it, Corey Seager is performing extremely well, and yeah, if the Rangers want to finish this series now without Garcia, it's gonna essentially come down to him and also Marcus Semien finding something. He has started to hit a little bit in this World Series. He needs to have a big game at some point because he has definitely struggled. But he's Marcus Semien. He's a good player. It's in there. He just happened to get a cold streak at the worst possible time. But luckily for him, it hasn't mattered much because of Seager. But yeah, no, it's there's definitely a chance for either one of these teams to finish this series out. Right now, I'm leaning Rangers. They have the lead in the series, and I know that the Garcia injury is big. I'm at a point where I'm like, that the Diamondbacks bullpen can't do this again, and I've been burned already twice. But I don't believe that it's possible for their bullpen to survive another series of a lot of innings. So we'll have to see how that goes. What are you thinking? Are you thinking the Snakes can come back?
I think they can. I'm thinking this goes 7.
7?
I don't see, because the Rangers are good. Like, they are very good. And, once we get to October next year, I expect the Rangers will be back in the playoffs. But there's a little luck that's been involved and a little timely hitting that's been involved. And obviously that's what October's all about. I'm not trying to discount that, right? But you look at the Diamondbacks, and they are actually facilitating runs.
Yeah.
As opposed to, just counting on walk-off and timely bombs. Like, both are necessary, but the Diamondbacks just have a much more, natural way to score runs. And, that's what you need. You need to have just a strong foundation to rely on. And I mentioned the stealing bases. You mentioned if their bullpen can hold up, this is definitely going 7, because they're going to have the Rangers on the ropes at times. Mm-hmm. You play a team 4, 5, 6, 7 games in a row, you're going to learn something new about them. Especially, when their lives are on the line and they're trying new things, and, guys are tired, they're pitching every third day, and, you're going to have even more parity than you would if you just played each other in the regular season. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think this goes the distance. And then Game 7 is going to be an all-timer. But I do think the Rangers win it, because they are able to have that timely clutch hit. And the Diamondbacks have had some, but not to the magnitude that the Rangers have.
Yeah, I'm going personally Rangers in 6 games. They end up winning that at home in Game 6. It's just, again, I've already been wrong, but I just can't. Right now, the Diamondbacks are in another bullpen game, and I'm like, these guys' arms are gonna fall off eventually, right? I just can't see how they can stay this effective for so long. And as I say that, Marcus Semien has just hit an RBI double down the left field line.
There we go.
And it's messed up in the corner, and it is now 3-0 Texas. It's a triple for Marcus Semien. So. Just said he needed to get going for the Rangers to win this thing. There you go. We've got one live reaction for you right before we head out for the rest of this one. But Nick,
one thing I do want to mention.
Yes,
though,
give me what you got.
And I do have to credit our friend Shaq. He did mention that with the loss of Max Scherzer, who we didn't touch on too much, very admirable of Max to try to come back. Mm-hmm. He clearly was not the same, but he gave it his all nonetheless.
Gave him 3 scoreless yesterday.
Right. The Rangers adding an arm that the Diamondbacks haven't seen yet, and a fresh arm at that, is a weapon. Losing Max Scherzer sucks, yeah, but adding a fresh arm is a good thing for the Rangers, so that might come into play here as we wind down the World Series.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure everybody that can pitch, that is available, will be pitching in the rest of the series. But, yeah, I think, you got anything else that we needed to touch on? I'm pretty sure I got to everything I wanted to talk about in this one.
No, I think, we touched on it one thing, credit where credit is due. I got to show love to my pitchers. Merrill Kelly was absolutely phenomenal.
Yes, he's been great all postseason long, man.
And to do that to really break out at age 33, 34, good for him, man.
Yeah,
good for him.
He's a great story that, honestly, if you haven't looked into his story, you should check it out. Played in the KBO for a long time, and is now...
Eric Fetty's next.
Eric Fetty is next, that's true. But yeah, Merrill Kelly, great performance so far this postseason. He'll definitely get another start, at least probably game 5.
We might see him... Yeah, we might see him tomorrow.
Yeah, we might see him
if they lose tonight. We might see him tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, so we're gonna get into a full postseason recap in a different episode when the World Series is over. But we just want to talk about these two teams specifically and their roads to the World Series. because it's just a really interesting matchup, despite the fact that some people on Twitter might say it's boring. It has not been boring. It's been really fun. But
you know what I say to those people? Be a goldfish.
I yes, there you go, baby. I appreciate that. But yeah, so that's gonna do it for us, and check us out on Twitter/X. All of our usernames in the link are linked in the description as well as on your screen. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.